All right, this video, we're gonna call it Back to Basics. These are the foundational principles that I like to use when I'm teaching literally any back exercise. Doesn't matter if we're in a cable unit, doesn't matter if I've got dumbbells, doesn't matter if I am using machines at a gym like a T-bar row, a seated row, a lat pull down. These are the things that are gonna get your back development to the next level. So the first thing I have to talk about is your grip. Obviously, I can't work anything for my back if I'm not pulling my arms back towards me. So I have to have an attachment, which is my grip here. Now, when you grip, whether it's again, a barbell, a dumbbell, if I'm gripping, these right here, I want you to understand that if I grip like this, I call this the death grip. The moment I squeeze something, you can see it automatically flexes my bicep. It is just part of our DNA that gripping tightens things up. So when people do pull-ups, when people do rows, a lot of times I will hear, hey, I'm feeling my biceps, I'm not actually feeling my back. And this is one of the main reasons why. If I squeeze and I pull, I'm almost doing more of a bicep curl than I am an actual part of the back motion. And let me explain a little bit of the anatomy. So our lat muscles, the muscles back here, that's why I'm literally gonna show you today some of the back muscles in action. It's all about this bone, this humerus, moving around this way, which is not at all super dependent upon this motion here at the elbow. Remember, if I'm doing more of this here, I'm gonna get more bicep. If I move my elbow around my body in any direction, I'm going to now be using my back more because of how all these muscles attach in with the humerus of the arm. With that in mind, the first rule is this. When you grip, instead of doing the death grip here, we're gonna take our thumbs, we're gonna move them to the outsides. Now it's just a hook. Okay, think of it as I just need an attachment, or like if someone were to just duct tape my hand here, and then I'm pulling, I'm no longer pulling this way from the bicep, I'm actually pulling this way from the elbow. And that's point number 2. When you think of any back motion, it doesn't matter, it could be this direction, this direction, this direction. I want you to pretend I'm right there behind you, I've got my hands right underneath your elbow, and you are pressing your elbow into my hand. Notice I don't need any bicep for that at all. This idea of pulling from the elbow, again, this direction, this direction, this direction, this direction, that's all that matters. So relax your grip. We want to take as much tension out of the forearm as possible. Just hook the hands and then see, no bicep. See how I'm doing this right here? I'm not even flexing the bicep, but I'm pulling from my back. You can see the back starting to work because of pulling from the elbow. So that's steps 1 and 2, and this is universal for any back exercise. Now, if we're getting heavy, like in a barbell row or something, a heavy T-bar row, and you're thinking, okay, but my grip is faltering, that's why you see guys wear the straps. If I have straps that then help me with my grip, I can completely relax. Matter of fact, it's not a bad practice. The only thing is I do like to have a little bit of finger and hand grip strength. So if you can incorporate that, fantastic. But if the grip becomes the limiting factor or you start to feel yourself tighten up your biceps, go for the straps. There's nothing wrong with that because the goal of this is back development. All right, from that, we're gonna talk about the major planes. When I'm developing my back, I'm either gonna be in some type of horizontal position or some type of vertical position. So a typical vertical position would be like our lat pull down or a pull-up, which we're gonna demonstrate. And then again, any kind of seated row. If I'm bent over and I'm doing a dumbbell row, that's still a horizontal. And the only difference is how is my scapula, or again, these bones right here, how are they moving? Because our scapular movement along the rib cage is going to determine how well we're accessing all of those muscles of the back and creating stability. All right, so here's the next thing we're going to work on. I'm going to start you in the horizontal plane, and we're going to do, honestly, more of a posterior delt and a rhomboid, which are the muscles that bring your scapula together. And I want you to see what we're going to employ, which is the 4 count. So if I'm at a cable unit, let's say, and this is one of the best ways to work this exercise, I'm going to take the handles and then I'm going to crisscross my arms here. Again, I'm not gripping, I'm hooking my hands, but the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to feel the stretch, and then I'm going to, before I ever start to pull with my arms, I'm going to pull my shoulder blades together. You'll be surprised at how many people can no longer pinch their shoulder blades. But imagine if you put your finger right on my spine in between my shoulder blades and I were to pinch your finger with that. Notice too, I'm not shrugging. A lot of people will shrug with the traps and therefore have tight necks because we're stressed all day here. So always think back and down, pinch your shoulder blades together. That's the 1. Now we have set the foundation so that I can take these handles and I can spread all the way out. Notice by out here, that's going to get my back super tight. Now, here's the hard part, which is the 3. As I return, most people are going to do this. The hands are going to come, and then you see, whoop, there I lost it. You're going to work on keeping your shoulder blades tight, 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 tight. Once my arms are crossed, then I release the position. So once again, 1, shoulder blades together. 2, spread nice and tight. 3, stay tight with the shoulder blades, stay tight with your shoulder blades, stay tight with your shoulder blades. And then 4, release and stretch. I want you to feel that. At first, it's pretty robotical. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as you know and have the kinesthetic awareness to know I've got those shoulder blades back together, then it can be smooth. So it looks more like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have that control. That's going to be most important, is to have that kind of control in your scapula, which is also going to work if you have shoulder problems. If you're one of those people that sits and your shoulders are rounding forward, bringing them back and down is a lot going to be anchored by the scapula, which then your rotator cuff muscles and other muscles around the area will allow you to bring your posture up. So that is going to be true whether I'm doing this exercise here. It's going to be true if I'm doing a row. So again, I'm just going to use the cable units to demonstrate. So imagine if I were in a seated row position, any kind of horizontal, I'm going to do that same 4 count. Again, I've hooked my hands. 1, shoulder blades together. 2, I'm going to pull from my elbows, 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 nice and tight. That gets my back great and tight. 3, it stays tight, stays tight, stays tight. Now my arms are straight, so now I release forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. As I get better, it gets smoother. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice my chest goes out because my elbows are going back. This is what I'm looking for. When I go to stretch, I just need to allow the back to stretch. I don't need to hunch. So again, I'm tall, but I'm stretched. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I go to like a dumbbell row or a single arm, it's no different. The only thing here is I'm not just doing one arm, I have to anchor it with both. So instead of just doing this, I'm gonna go here with both, but then I'm still gonna do my pull here and release both. So whether my arm's down or like imagine if my hand's on a bench and I'm in this position here, it's all the same. It's a horizontal. So I can go shoulder blades, pull, tight, release. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice no shrug. Shoulders are back and down. This is the most important part of your back development, is incorporating that 4 count, the 1, 2, 3, 4 into the motions and then getting more smooth with it. Now, how does that look in the vertical plane? When I am horizontal, again, it's just really more back, assuming I'm not shrugging. But in the vertical, my arms are stretched this way. So I now have to pull not just together, but also down. So if I'm doing pull-ups, and again, this particular pull-up apparatus has 3 different handles, and I'll go over some of the pros and cons of that, but same rules apply. I'm still going to hook my hands. I'm not going to death grip it because I don't want to pull from the bicep. And that's also why the underhand, which is more of a chin-up, so wide grip, this is a pull-up. Underhand, that's a chin-up, and that's just how they name them. But the chin-up has an easier way of using the biceps because of the nature of bending the elbow. I still want to think about pulling my elbows down, which you'll see me demonstrate. But I'm gonna hook the hands. Once I have my hands hooked, I'm gonna stretch. So I want you to see the motion. It's not just back, it's back and down. So I've got this right here from the lat, back and down. So that's my 1. Now I'm gonna pull from my elbows, 2. Now watch, stay tight, stay tight, stay tight, stay tight, stay tight, 3. My arms are now straight and relaxed. Now I can stretch 4. Now if I do that faster, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be more of my pull-up motion. Now, for a lot of you beginners, my females, a lot of my guys that are bigger, doing regular pull-ups are kind of hard. That's okay. We need to learn how to progress you through that, which we can do with lat pull-downs, but at the same time, lat pull-downs only get you partial. You got to get used to your body weight. So how do I do that? We can easily take band attachments, and I just want to show you the easiest way to get in because I've seen a lot of people flounder in gyms literally just trying to get themselves in one of these bands. So here's the simple way. I'm going to grab the band up high to give me a little bit of slack. I'm going to pull it down. Now I'm going to push my knee through it so it's on my shin. That's it. Once it's on one shin, I can go ahead and get my grip, and then I'm going to take my opposite leg and I'm going to put it over that leg. Now my whole body weight's supported, so I can again go into my 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm now taking away body weight to make the exercise easier. You start with heavier bands, or if you're a really big guy and you have a really thick band, sometimes it can be hard to pull down. So instead, take 2 bands, because 2 smaller bands would be equal to 1 bigger band. Same technique. And as you get stronger, you start to take bands away until eventually you're doing your own body weight. That's how we would do a very simple assisted pull-up if you don't have a gym that actually has one of those assisted pull-up machines. But as it pertains to staple exercises, if squatting and deadlifting are kind of king exercises for the legs, pull-ups are going to be the king exercise for back development. All right. Now let's talk a little bit about the difference in grips and what they do really more from a biomechanical standpoint. So bottom line is, if I'm in an underhand grip, I'm going to get more bicep potentially if I'm not pulling from the elbows. But you can see I can do this motion here and it has nothing to do with this here. So if I grab like so, again, I'm hooking my hands, but you can see if my elbows go forward, see how I'm pulling? You can see my biceps going there. We don't want that. So as I go, I'm gonna go shoulders, but watch. I'm gonna pull my elbows straight down and back this way. My chest stays up high, and that's the motion. So there's almost a little bit of an elbow arc as I come this way. Now, are you gonna get some bicep in there? Of course, and there's nothing wrong with that. We just wanna make sure that the back is the primary, and that's what you feel, as opposed to a lot of people say they feel their biceps, and their biceps are burning out, and they don't even feel their back. So in a lot of exercises, there are multiple muscle groups working to do the movement. The key is, whatever is working the most is usually what you are going to feel from a kinesthetic awareness standpoint. So I need you to feel your back, not your biceps. All right. Now, when I go to a wide grip, the wide grip allows more of a lat stretch. And that's part of the key. Like if I'm doing something like here, I can actually turn, and you can see how that right there, because the lat wraps around. So what's nice about having more specialized gyms like mine is we have machines where I can actually pull across the body and keep tension the entire time. But if I come here and pull, you can see this lat working. The equivalent of that in the pull-up is a wider. So if I'm pulling and I'm pulling more this direction, you can see the arc. I'm gonna stretch at the top and pull here. So that's where we get our wide grip. So again, I'm here, hooking the hands. Again, shoulders, elbows out. See how I don't pull elbows in this way? I'm gonna bring it out so I can get more of the lat. And I want you to be able to see the difference in how the muscles are actually working. So hook, shoulder blades, elbows out, big chest, stay tight, and release. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you go to a lat pull down, it's the same. I'm gonna stay wide, or some gyms like mine, we actually have specialized handles that allow you to even hook and pull, which is more of a mechanical advantage, and it takes even more pressure out of the forearms so you can pull better from the elbow. But that's gonna be our wide grip pull-up. Now, most people when they start, they're better at the chin up. Why? Because they're using more bicep, but their backs are relatively weak. So I want most people to start wide, develop that lat, and then come back into more of a narrow. The middle grip, that's just an in-between because we're just working different elbow angles which fire different parts of the back. But one more time, when I'll do all three just back to back, and you can see some slight variations to how the muscles are targeted, but overall we're getting everything. But I want you to go from the narrow, which is gonna go a little bit more from the mid-back, to the medium, to the wide, which is gonna go more towards the lat. You're gonna see my lats flare out more, and that will show you why changing the angles matters, why biomechanics matter, and why we do for the goals of hypertrophy and for physique training, we have certain exercise selections and we utilize different machines, different angles to basically sculpt, and that's the fun artistic part of physical development. So, all together, here's my closest grip, which my elbows are narrow. Here is a bicep grip, elbows a little wider. Here's a middle grip, elbows wider again. And then here is my widest grip with more of a lat spread. Okay, so those are just some examples. Again, we covered horizontal and vertical pulling. There's really not many exercises outside of that. Now, you can do, let's say, like a pull over. So I pull over, imagine I'm lying down and I'm doing a dumbbell. I'm doing this kind of angle here. If I'm using a cable machine, this would be the equivalent here. You can see I'm gonna get a stretch. And again, same thing, I'm gonna go shoulder blades back and down. I pull, squeeze, stay tight, stretch. So like a pull over type mechanic. Those are the only other variations when it comes to back exercises because I'm bringing the arm in this direction, but everything else is gonna be some form of a row, horizontal, or just variations to vertical. But the number one thing is what? Grip, relax, pull from the elbow, give me a good 4 count. If you apply those principles, you will know 95% of the technique for any back exercise.